Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Stream Key Podcast, our weekly show here at TRUgaming, where we talk with streamers about how to improve on Twitch each and every week. And this week, coming back to the show, is the one and only GrindheadJim. Jim, thanks so much for being here today, dude. How are you doing?
Doing all right. As usual, I have coffee next to me. This
Nice.
time, my beard's under a little bit more control, so it's like a progression. So if we're going to go for a third one, like I might have to shave it off for it to look. It's never going to happen, but it would make the most sense.
Sure.
How you doing, man?
Sure. Yeah, I'm doing well, man. I have coffee here too, so we should be ready to go for a good episode here. I'm really excited about today because today we're talking about trolls generally, but that also incorporates negativity and hate and just things that you have to deal with at some point on Twitch and really any platform as a content creator. So I'm super excited. If you guys haven't seen the show before, the way this works is for the first 40 or so minutes, Jim and I will talk about this topic, which again is trolls. And then for the last third of the show, about 20 minutes, maybe longer, depending on questions, you guys can ask questions related to this topic if it makes you think of something or give an example, or just streaming in general. We'll answer those questions and you can get your own personal feedback there. But just to start off, I want to quickly reintroduce Jim to the show for people who maybe haven't seen him before, don't know about him. He's also on his own show now too, so maybe you can briefly touch on that in your little intro here.
Sure.
Go ahead.
So for my channel, I tend to focus on inclusiveness of community, but it's more of a mature rated stream. It's designed to kind of let your freak flag fly, be who you are, kind of just have a lot of fun. I'm best known for playing Destiny and Watch Dogs 2, more so Destiny than Watch Dogs, but every time I play Watch Dogs, I was like, that's that guy. I also moonlight as one of the co-hosts of the True Talk podcast right here on TRUgaming every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern.
Yes.
Where I berate Gamer Dad and he puts up with me, and it's amazing.
Yeah, and whoever you pull on to be that third unfortunate guest there.
I don't berate them too much. That's more of like a polite chiving, where Gamer Dad gets like the most of it, and he's just like,
sure,
and which I really appreciate. It's a good thing. But I've been with TRUgaming as a sponsored streamer for a little over 6 months now, and I've come to really enjoy and love the community more so, and to see the growth that we're having in this community is amazing. So thanks for having me on the show and being a part of the community.
Yeah, of course, man. And it's so cool because when you first came on the show, you're very new to sponsorship, if I remember correctly, like very new into it. So now you've been here for a number of months and had the chance to sort of experience it and see how it really is. So I'm glad to see that you still love it. You're still a part of it. You're still all for it. And now in the True Talk podcast, you guys should definitely go check that out if you like podcasts, because it's the same kind of stuff we do here, just more community focused. So go check that out. But yeah, so that is Jim. I have a question for you because normally I would ask you, what is the question I asked? Oh, if you have any bad handles from before, but we've touched on that already. So I want to ask you, do you have a favorite game of all time, and have you streamed it before?
For me, gaming is a trifecta at this point in my life. If you'd asked me prior to like 2014, I would have said Ninja Gaiden from the NES or the NES, if you want to be official about it now, apparently. And Tecmo's Deception from the PS1 and that series that came with it. And now I put Destiny in that trifecta, and I've streamed all three of those to varying degrees of success. But one of the first games that I streamed was Ninja Gaiden 2. And I have streamed later versions of Deception, which is, if you're not familiar with it, it's a trap game. It's a third-person trap game where you lure people to certain places and you try to get them through all your traps and stuff. It's a pretty sadistic game, which fits my personality pretty well. It's a ton of fun, very over-the-top Japanese. It's one of the few Japanese games that I enjoy in terms of like being Japanese with a capital J. Wow. But it's a really fun game. So like Trapped, or the fourth one came out on PS4 a couple years ago, and I recommend that. And of course, Destiny I stream like all the time. So yes.
Right. Yeah, you've built a podcast on Destiny too, and it's weird. I feel like you can't classify a game you're currently playing as your favorite game of all time for some reason. Like there's just a block there, but it definitely could be, right?
I think so, and I look at it this way: like the reason that I stream Destiny is that it is my favorite game, and when one creates content, it's best to create content based around something you're truly passionate about. People can tell when you're playing something and you're not having a good time. So there's really two sides of that. You're either creating content for something you're passionate about, or it's something you're comfortable playing, and you can kind of like turn off your higher brain, play instinctively, and just which is more of what I do in Destiny at this point. But when new content comes out, I'm like, and I freak out, and it's a lot of fun for people. So, when you see this 300-pound Marine going, this is so great, I think that there's a lot to that. But like, and it's weird that you kind of like mentioned the Destiny's Not Dead podcast, which has its whole other history with trolls. Like it basically came out of an anti-troll trolling is what it was. And I guess I'll get right into it, since this is kind of what we're talking about here.
Sure.
Destiny has had a lot of flack over the years. Some justified, some not so justified, and some somewhere in the middle. Because every game's going to come with criticism. But ever since Destiny 2 came out, and we got to this place where the first expansion was about to come out, and there was just not a lot of content, which happens with every MMO. Sorry to say. Every tweet that Bungie put out, or any of the community managers put out, there would always be this handful to a dozen people that would tweet thinking they're very clever, dead game. And I can only take so much of that when all I'm trying to do is read the daggum news. Okay. I just want to know what's going on. I don't want to see your nonsense comment that adds nothing to the conversation, which to me is the definition of a troll. It's nonsense being put out into the ether that adds nothing to the conversation, designed to provoke an emotional response. That is all it is, and as far as I'm concerned, it's all it ever will be. And then if you engage the troll, then it becomes something else at that point. So to get, with Destiny's Not Dead, I really got sick and tired of hearing this around spring of this year. And I decided that I wanted to just say it loud and proud that it's not dead. I've made multiple videos on the subject because the fact is there are at least 1 million people a day playing it at a minimum, if not way more than that, because we don't have the actual numbers. And by definition, if anyone's playing a game and it functions, it by definition is not dead. So what I did, and it was a troll, I will be the first to admit it. I created the Twitter. I created all the templates for the podcast that would be, I hadn't done any content yet. So my idea of launching the brand was I put out this picture, and it was a picture from the original launch of Destiny of all 3 classes of Guardian. And it says, if you used to be a Guardian, then you never were. And the idea behind it was that there's a lot of people that are like, we're abandoning the game and saying it's a dead game. And the point was that if you're a casual player of that game, you expect a beginning static, and if that wasn't satisfying for you, then you were playing the game for the wrong reasons, right? And to come back and then now like criticize the game for not having anything that you want to do in a non-constructive way tells me that you were never going to invest in the game in the first place, and just get out of the conversation. But it was a really jerk way of saying it, okay? And I got exactly the response that I thought I would by posting lots and lots of stuff over a weekend with this tweet. It made this Twitter account, it became very difficult for people to say Destiny's dead when I could come right in, because I had it on an alert where anytime someone said it, I'm like, nuh-uh, I'm proof right here. I have it in writing. And I've had long conversations with people to just kind of say, like, explain this to me. Why do you think it is? And I would just debunk everything they were saying. And after about a week, and since then, I haven't seen dead game under a Bungie post in months. This is before the Forsaken was even announced. So I'm not saying that I did that, but I certainly made some people think twice about it on some level. And that was the goal. But the thing is, the intended effect was to rile up the people that really love the game, that maybe weren't interested in playing it, and kind of stoke a conversation. And they were all like, what do you mean I was never a guard? You mean the 3,000 hours I put in Destiny 1 means nothing? I didn't say that. I said that if you consider yourself an ex-Guardian, like you never want to play the game again, then you're not currently a Guardian, and your dedication to the community is going to be on a different level than somebody else. And I would have these conversations. And, that was what the first episode ultimately was about. And I think it worked. It was really cool. So I find it funny that this whole anti-troll movement that I created was in and of itself a troll move.
Right.
But
interesting.
I've done worse things in my life.
So I always like to ask why people want to talk about the topic they come on the show with. And I'm guessing this is why, just because you've had this experience of not only being subject to trolls and being, kind of letting them get under your skin a little bit, but also retaliating and doing a little bit of like reverse trolling, it sounds like.
To a degree.
Which is interesting.
The main reason I wanted to talk about this was because of the more traditional trolling. With my community, it's meant to be come as you are, be who you are, be proud of who you are. And the only stipulation that I have typically is don't break the terms of service and don't encroach on anyone else wanting to be who they are. As long as you can follow those rules, we're pretty good for the most part. And in the early days of my streaming, like when you're growing a channel initially, and there's not really an established baseline of people, and you're not maybe learning the systems, it's kind of easy for trolls to come in and do their thing. And I've had quite a bit of that over the years, and I had to grow mental and actual logistic systems to mitigate those and know how to deal with them and how to tell others to deal with them. And it's something that I feel that a lot of people just don't know how to do it, and they don't know how to learn how to do it. And I figured, well, I've gotten to that place, so I should at least share the knowledge on some level. Because there's a bunch of different types of trolls out there, and but they all come back to kind of the same thing. They either want attention or they want to create controversy, or a little bit of both. Like there are people that just get on Twitch and go around the different channels trying to, frankly, piss people off and get them riled up. Or they're trying to evoke a response that they can capture in a clip and then put in one of their stupid montage videos on YouTube or Twitch or whatever. And, whatever. They're after something, and it's not your friendship, you've got like that kind of troll. You've got folks that, like I call the spoiler trolls, which anytime a huge movie comes out, they'll come out and they'll spam like a major story spoiler point, whether it's true or not to that film. And it'll just do that kind of thing. I had that a couple times. You'll have people that will just come in and just berate you about your appearance just for the sake of that. People that will like the dead game, like whatever, they'll just come in and just be, or you'll have, I've even seen this where they'll come from other communities and become toxic towards your community because, we're from this community, your community sucks, and whatever. It's interesting to say the least.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's just something that I would be lying if I said I fully understood what brings a person to want to do that beyond just being bored or feeling like they don't have an outlet of their own, which is a shame. It's actually really sad, and I pity that a lot. And in some cases, when someone comes in, like you can tell the ones that are just like basically pressing the button. You can tell those ones from the I'm really desperate for attention, I have no idea how to get it kind of person.
The people who will donate money to try and get a message, but really they're still donating money to the streamer. Those are my favorite.
Right. Yeah, those are interesting for sure. And there's ways that you can, mitigate all those things. And there's ways you can deal with all the different types of streamers. Well, some of them are streamers, I guess. But people on Twitch or anywhere for that matter, because if you're dealing with like comment trolls on like YouTube or something like that, that's a little bit different. Frankly, it's a bit easier as far as how you can just be like, boop, see you later, buddy, kind of thing. If you ban them from your comment stream, that's one thing, but there's still the emotional fallout from that, because I think it's different. Because in real time, things scroll by and you have to think fast, act fast, do things, whatever. And for the most part, that's not really by design going to sink in on a deep level unless it happens a lot or they say something really scathing. Versus on a YouTube comment or a Facebook page or something like that, for whatever reason, because it is for the moment static and the world can see it, you're like, it for whatever reason, it is more impactful to the heart and mind. But it is what it is.
Right.
So like, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think we both basically agree here that trolls and negativity and hate are kind of just part of the process. Like, it's gonna happen to everyone, whether you are
absolutely
brand new or at some point in your journey you run into it.
Right.
So I want to kind of wrestle with a few different things. First of all, mentality, maybe, because I think a lot of new people who are either just new to Twitch as a whole or content creation haven't dealt with this before.
Sure.
What kind of advice do you have for those people? Or maybe like, do you have any stories of, over time, how you learned to get more comfortable with that kind of thing and respond to it?
Absolutely. The number one piece of advice that I have for the person starting out is the one thing I wish I'd have heard before I started, which is remember that they don't care about you. They don't care about your community. They don't give a flip about your content. They are there for themselves, for whatever reason, for whatever thing they're after, whether it's attention or riling you up. They're entertaining themselves or trying to get attention for themselves. And whatever you do does not really matter unless you buy into what they are selling, so to speak, and you're giving them back what their expected response is. And the more you engage in that way, the more that they win, and you're going to just stress yourself out. The example I'll give is one of the first big growth streams that I ever did. We were doing a companion podcast to WrestleMania 30, and at one point I think we had like 2,000 viewers or something, and it was really cool. And I got a lot of followers that day. This is very early in Twitch for me, and I was still very much learning the ropes. And to be honest, it was WrestleMania. I'd had a few beers, and I had a co-host, and some people were laying into him. I believe it was because of his appearance or his voice. He's very Canadian, and they weren't just being like, "Oh, hey," they were being real jerks about it. And I really was like, what? I was reverting back to like Marine Corps. Ooh, I was mad. I was pissed. And I was just like, you get out of here. And I was banning, and I was really engaging it. It was ruining the show, in my opinion. And I just didn't have a grasp on the fact that you let it go silently in those cases. You ban them as quickly as you can and you move on. I didn't have any moderators back then but myself. I didn't know how to deal with it. I wasn't really using a bot at that point. It was very new. I just didn't have the tool set or the mindset going into it. So
sure.
My advice...
No, go ahead. I was going to say, yeah, go ahead first. I'll ask my question after.
Yeah. My advice really comes down to, before you start streaming, be honest with yourself and decide what is going to get under my skin the most, and then prepare for that, both mentally and with whether it's bot settings or automod or what have you. So after that happened, I did look into getting a bot. I did ban every word I could think of that would trigger me. Racial epithets, appearance descriptors that I didn't like, everything I could think of that would be, unacceptable to me in my stream and my community. And that was a big thing. Also, I had to kind of talk to myself through it. I went looking for troll videos on YouTube, and I wanted to understand their behavior more. And that's when I kind of came to this understanding that, okay, these guys aren't even at the level of a traditional bully. They're below traditional bullies, because bullies actually care about your reaction because they want to hurt you on a very deep level. These people don't even necessarily want that. They want your reaction.
And they have to do it in person, right? Like, you can't just do it anonymously online.
I mean, right. And I would argue that there's like a bully troll hybrid that's a whole other thing when it comes to personal social media and stuff that we don't necessarily have to touch on, but there's that weird thing. But like, so the troll just wants is instant gratification. And there's only so many different things they're after. And when you identify that by their behavior, you deal with it accordingly. I had a spoiler troll come in for around the time that the first new Star Wars film came out, Force Awakens, and they spoiled a major piece of the plot at the end of the film. Something I had guessed was going to happen if I hadn't seen the film yet. And even though in my head I had an idea of what was going to happen at the end of the film, I went to the film and I saw it, and as soon as that scene started, I'm like, damn it. I was just like, man, and it really ruined it for me. On at least, it still hit me emotionally, that scene, but I feel like it would have been more impactful had I not had this person in there. You know, and there's all kinds of things. And as the technology evolves on Twitch, and you learn more about how things work, there's ways you can, you know, ahead of time, preemptively steel yourself against these sort of things. You know, for example, like people will come into a Twitch chat and do one thing, but if you have a public Discord link in your Twitch, well, if you haven't disabled text to speech by now, folks, if you're listening right now, open your Discord and disable that universally, even for your admin account. Just don't allow it to happen. Because I had an IRL stream. It was going on like 2 a.m. We were celebrating, and you know, I had a couple drinks, so my reaction time was not what it should have been, and I just hear some really filthy stuff coming in my ear. And I'm like, and I'm like, who the hell is saying that? And I go, and I couldn't figure it out. I'd never heard it before. I had no idea what it was. And finally, I looked over at my voice meter banana, saw the meter going up on Discord. And I realized it was coming from Discord, so I muted that channel, went over, figured out what it was, banned the person that it was typing that in, because they had just taken a bot and put a command, just a script that would just over and over again. And I was able to figure it out and get it fixed right in the spot. It was just this really, really basic thing. It's once was turn off, you know, text to speech for everybody, and that fixed that issue. But it's you have to kind of think ahead, like what could possibly be exploited, and that's kind of thing that I try to. That's the overarching advice. Prepare yourself mentally for what might happen. No, it's not about you. Don't let it get under your skin. In your head, you have to ahead of time say, if someone comes in and says some negative stuff that really isn't directed at me, it's not about me. It's you're going after reaction. That illustrates how much they either need attention or they're that bored, and just pity them. And if it's someone who you can tell really wants legitimate attention, you can try to engage, ignore the troll side of things, and just let them know, hey, you are welcome here if you follow the rules. Or you can do what I tend to do sometimes, go, dude, this is really not the community for you. If this is the way you're going to act, give them one try. And if they don't relent, ban hammer. And that's the end of it. And just let it roll off. You know, that's the best advice that I can give. You have to realize it's not, no one is conspiring in a room to come after, you know, GreenChord or GrindheadJim or Gamer Dad. They're not like, all right, we're going to get these guys. All right, Jim's a little bit overweight, so we're going to come at him with a bit. He's fat, right? We're going to yell him about being fat. Okay. And who likes red beards? I don't like red beards. We're going to, you know, it doesn't happen that way. They're like, here's a guy streaming. I'm going to try and mess with him. That's how it works for the most part. So you got to remember that. That's the big thing, that it comes from a place of a whim of instant gratification, and they're either going to get it or they're not. And if you don't give it to them, cool. Don't waste your energy on it.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that a lot in terms of, it kind of goes back to what you talked about in the last podcast in terms of just making sure you plan ahead of time, so that when inevitably someone does come onto your stream, and whether it's like a mild or a more severe troll, you're ready for it. You've already put that scenario in your head, and you have a plan of action for, okay, here's what I do now. It's here, it's happening, instead of trying to react to it in real time and then, you know, overreacting or doing nothing and trying to avoid it. So I agree with that. I do think, you know, you talked about the fact that people aren't sitting there in a room trying to target someone, but there is a little bit of that I've seen out there. I want to touch on that a little bit later, but I just want to give that qualification. Really quickly, I want to follow up on the first example that you gave, which was you were talking about when you were doing the co-host with the podcast, and he was getting attacked a lot and you kind of overreacted. How would you react to that now with kind of the perspective that you have being, you know, a couple of years in now with the stream?
Quite simply, actually. I would have just gone over to my Streamlabs bot, right click ban, and I would have just kept going without breaking a sweat. You might have seen me look over at the screen. That's all it would have been. I would have just kept talking. The Hulk Hogan's dumb. John Cena's kind of cool. That's how it would have gone. Because at this point, that's just how it works. Because one, and I didn't think about this at the time. This is one of my best friends that is co-hosting with me for this, and we're doing something that we didn't get to do a lot. And this was supposed to be he and I watching WrestleMania together and sharing that with other people. And all I'm doing, if I'm engaging with these guys and yelling about it, is I'm bringing more attention to the things that they're saying, which are horrible. And it's got to make him not feel so great, I imagine. It's not doing any good. And I would never want to, make the knife go deeper. Like, there's no reason for him to feel like that, or anyone to feel like that. So for me, in those instances where they're just there to just be jerks for the sake of being jerks, give it no validity whatsoever. Don't give them the energy. Don't waste it, especially when you got a couple thousand viewers watching you. Like, come on. At that point, you just gotta. Because I imagine that there are plenty of streamers out there that get those kind of views consistently, that have way more systems in place because there's way more stuff that happens. A guy like Professor Broman, who's overwhelmingly positive and awesome, he has a great way of dealing with trolls himself, where he will say, I disagree, and then he will just basically leave it at that. And if they persist, the mods know to be like, boo, get rid of that kind of stuff. And that's the thing. When you're starting out, you're not going to have a bunch of people behind you. You have to establish what it is you are and are not willing to put up with. And that's something that took me a lot of time to really figure out where the line was. And I think that, in many ways, where I found the best middle ground was when I started having a group of mods. And I eventually had my head moderator, Murderaka XO, who is one of my favorite people in the world. She is a living, breathing meme factory. And she can troll if she wanted to. She's good at it. And so she can see her own kind from a mile away. And so when she's in there, I'm going to deal with nothing. She is going to engage them on their own level. And they're either going to understand that you're welcome here and you can make some really tasteless jokes. That's what this family was built on, tasteless jokes, sir, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And they'll either stick around or they'll be like, well, this is boring, and they'll leave. Or she'll ban them because they're being jerks to her, which she will suffer no fools.
Right.
And if you're lucky enough to have someone like that is really on the same page as you, that helps. But there's tons of automated stuff that helps with that. But when you establish what it is you want your community to be, it's the other side of niche. Everyone talks about what's your niche as a streamer. Like, it's not just what's on screen and what happens off screen. When you're not, because a niche for me is just as much when you're not streaming, what people think of you, like what you're known for, right? And when I'm not streaming, people don't really talk about me as the Destiny guy too much. A lot of people in the community are just like, well, they call me Mom. I'm like, well, Mom is all about getting people in here and making sure everyone can do everything, and I don't turn anyone away. But also Mom plays lots of Destiny. So I feel like if you can establish your offline niche and then create a moderation manifesto, if you will, around that will then speak to who you promote to moderators and what kinds of things you put into bots and your rule set and stuff like that. So you have to really be honest with yourself is the biggest, hurdle you have to jump.
Right. And then it all comes back to creating smart structures to help support your stream so that you don't run into negativity, right? And part of that is choosing moderators who line up with your identity, with your channel and what you're known for, who would kind of make the same decisions that you would if you were in that position. I definitely agree with that. Are there any other ways that you kind of use moderation or other structures to help curb trolling and negativity and hate before it happens?
Absolutely. Up until recently, and we talked about this on the last cast. When last we met our heroes, Streamlabs had just enabled Spotify in their Streamlabs bot, and I was really geeked about it. Now, just recently, they've removed that feature because Spotify was like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
And took it away. And I could do a whole podcast about the music industry and streaming. So you just put that feather in your cap. You come back in a month or two or whatever, and we'll talk about that because I got some stuff. So anyway, the reason that I used Spotify and only Spotify for a long time because it was impossible to put these YouTube troll songs in there, and it worked out really well. It was a great system that took care of itself. Now that I have to go back to YouTube, or I can do Pretzel Rocks, which has a bunch of great music that no one knows. Sorry, Pretzel Rocks, you'll get there. You are on that path. But for me and my community, get a couple GrindChord labels under your belt and we'll talk. I'm just saying. And for the record, there's a album that I'm writing right now with some buddies of mine, and I've already said, in addition to putting it out on Bandcamp at $0 or more, I'm gonna license it to Pretzel. So there's some death metal out there, crying out loud, because it's just like, you know. Anyway, total tangent. Sorry. So now I have to go back to YouTube, and the question is, you know, how with the existing systems in place, do you fix that? So what I ended up doing was I put an if this then that kind of thing on it, where basically you either have to be a regular, or you have to have been in the stream for X amount of hours, which is technically the equal number, right? I think it's 8 hours to become a regular in the stream, which sounds like a lot, but it's not when you consider that at a minimum I stream an hour and a half to 2 hours at a bare minimum. And, or if I'm doing a marathon stream like I'll be doing probably tomorrow because I have to do some stuff in game, if you just lurk for one long stream, you get the ability. But what this does, it disables the ability for someone to just walk in, do a song request for some YouTube song that's gonna like halfway through go, you know, or whatever they do. It takes that away from them. And on Discord, I do pretty much the same thing, but it is a manual process. So I have in my Discord channel a welcome channel, and the public invite goes to this welcome channel that only the mods and myself and the person who's coming in can see. And my bot automatically says, "Hey, welcome to the channel. This is, you know, who we are. This is what we do. If you would, please let us know how you found the Discord. And, you know, if your username wherever you came from is different than what it is here, please tell us, you know, who you are, so we can get you out of this fancy waiting room." And sometimes I'll recognize the name, and if they're in the stream and I see them and they're behaving well or whatever, like I won't wait. I'll just, you know, take the roles away, and that's it. So basically all I have to do is change a role in Discord. So the bot, what it does, it puts them in that channel, gives them a role that's the only channel they can see. I've set the channel so that they can't see any history in there beyond from when they were in there. And then they have to respond, and unless I know them from somewhere else, they're not going to get out of that channel. It's a holding pattern. And combine that with the disabling of text-to-speech commands, pretty much eliminates any Discord trolling that could be done. And then I also have the entire Discord set up to where every channel is role-based, meaning there's no way to accidentally get to a channel you're not supposed to be in. And like there's a sub-only channel, there's a clan channel. Like there are people that have a lot of overlapping roles, and those people can see everything. But for example, if you come into that Discord only want to be part of the clan, well, you're not going to be bugged with any of the stream stuff if you don't want to be. And vice versa. If you don't have anything to do with the clan, but you want to be in the stream stuff, you can have a role that does that. And I think that helps keep the tribe calm, keeps the trolls away. And it makes it so that if someone wants to come in and do some nonsense, they can, and no one will ever see it. Sure. You know, that kind of, so those are the two biggest things. And also, of course, we talked about this before. I have a list of banned words on Twitch itself, in my bot, things in place to where if they say something, it's an automatic timeout for X amount of time. If they do it again, I think it's 10 times whatever that time is. So if it's 10 minutes, it's like 120 minutes or something. If they do it again in the same session, they're banned, kind of thing. So you just kind of, it's like my normal stream stuff. You automate what you can, and what you can't automate, you have a clear-cut idea of what's going on. And the thing is, not every community is going to be well served by having this holding pattern in the Discord. I get that. Not every community is going to be served well by automation of these certain words or whatever. You have to decide where the line is drawn, and then you draw that line with concrete, and you just make that happen. For some communities, it's going to be a lot more lenient. Other communities is going to be a lot more strict. You have to decide how that's done, and then you can respond accordingly to ensure that your community is protected. You have less stress to worry about, and you can focus on entertaining and bringing people together.
Right. Yep. I love that. So on Twitch, creating systems that people have to be there for a while before they can, not forever, but long enough that they can't just join the stream and just start only joining to troll and drop hate. And that actually kind of prevents like hate bombs too, which I want to talk about a little bit here. Sure. But then in the Discord too, a lot of that is also just gating people who join a little bit enough so that people cannot just join, and you're just making that extra steps that people have to go that much further if they want to do that trolling. And usually that's enough of a block for people to where they just lose interest. Well, I'll go somewhere else and do this, right? Just having that little bit of stoppage can oftentimes be a huge difference, and you don't see it, right? Like if you set these systems up right, you won't really know when they're working because you just won't see people coming in the chat. But if you do, they can actually be helping you a lot more than you realize a lot of the time. So I like that a lot. This podcast is always going really long, and I love it. I want to get to some really good topics here. I'm going to try and get to Q&A in like the next 10 minutes, and maybe while we're doing that, we'll touch on some of the topics I have too. But quickly, I want to talk about, so when things get more serious with trolls, right? Because on Twitch, unfortunately, there are those people who just take it, as if regular trolling wasn't far enough, they take it one step further, and things like swatting or addresses or real life situations become involved. Have you ever been a part of that, or what are your kind of thoughts over on how to deal with that and maybe set yourself up to be prepared for that when it happens?
Yes. A friend of mine had someone like publish their IP address and all this nonsense. Now, a lot of people will tell you that VPNs are the way to go. My opinion on that subject is, to my knowledge, IP spoofing is against Twitch policy. That's my understanding. I could be wrong there, and someone can correct me in the comments or in chat. I don't mess with that stuff. What I tend to do is, if I'm ever in a situation where that would happen, where my IP gets exposed, I can just call my ISP and be like, yo, change my IP address. Here's what happened. And typically I'm going to be okay with that. As far as like the personal information, I go to some pretty great links to protect that information as much as possible. My advice is to get either a PO box, or if you have a UPS store, if you're in the States, they have it's a legitimate street address. So it isn't like a PO box. There's a lot of places like, we can't ship to PO boxes or whatever. Get that. And it's like, I don't know, like maybe $50 a year or something to have that. And then post that as your address anywhere that it can be seen publicly. And people are like, what are you talking about? Like, well, if you have a website, unless you put privacy on that domain registration, your address is for the whole world to see. Okay. Not cool. And you could do the same thing for your billing address with the with that ISP or anything, PayPal, you name it. And if you do that, that'll act like a real life VPN, because it redirects everything to this other place. And so you're taken care of in that respect. So if someone were to swat you based upon that address, well, guess what? UPS is going to have some explaining to do, and then you'll have some explaining to do. The other part of it is it sounds cheesy, but you do want to let the local police know, hey, here's what I do for a living. This is something that may occur. Be aware of it. I know you have to respond, but I need you to bear in mind that there's a high probability that it's not real if that kind of call comes through, especially if it comes through more than once. Those are the big things. So I shy away from the VPN side of things because, one, it can get expensive. Two, it's not reliable. And three, as far as I know, it's not something you're supposed to do. So I say, well, if you want to protect your real life stuff, then use real life things to do it. So you find some kind of forwarding address or a stand-in, if you will, a decoy. There's the word I was looking for. And try that. And if that's not an option, make one up, if you have to. That way, whatever information they think they're getting is not real. So whatever you can do to like kind of protect that information, do that. And then if they find it, they're finding the wrong stuff and they can't really mess with you.
Sure. So it's sort of the same thing as what we talked about before, is just, taking steps to protect your personal information now. And, this is sort of more time intensive than the other things. Discord, Twitch, you can set up protections in a minute and it's very easy to do it online. This will take you more time, and probably most people don't do it because of that. And there's, you have to go to the police or something and actually say this. But if you're in a situation where there's a danger there, it's absolutely worth it to just have the peace of mind that your stuff is protected, no one can get to it. And I don't think this is something that everyone needs to do on Twitch, especially starting streamers. You don't need to worry about this because highly unlikely it's going to happen. And even if it does, it's not really going to impact you too much. Do you have advice on when you should start to think more about this thing?
Yes. The first and foremost, the most important is if you've been the victim of trolling. If it's something that's really prevalent in your channel for whatever reason, despite all the systems you put in place, and you feel like you're actually being targeted, if you feel like someone really is targeting you on any level, at that point, it's probably a good idea to think about it just to be safe. And the other side of it is, when you do start to grow, the more viewership you see, the more of a target you can potentially become on whatever directory you're in. So those two things, again, only you can make that decision as to whether or not it's time. But those are the two factors that I would consider, is that if you've already seen some of these reactions in the past, that would kind of give you a whiff of what may come. Combine that with if you're starting to grow to a degree where you're seeing a couple new people every stream, which is a great thing. You don't want to stifle that, but you also want to make sure that you're protecting yourself, because a lot of streamers, either they're young, they're living with folks, or they're living with roommates because they're in school or something like that, or they're just young adults living, or if you're older like myself and you have family, this doesn't just affect you; it affects everyone around you. And you need to take everyone's safety seriously. Now, I don't mean to get all gloom and doom on you, but understand that if there's a chance of something like that happening, it's cheesy to say it, but it'll never happen to me. That's the person that happens to, So, and I want to scare you, but know that if you see something that would tip you off that it's possible, take the extra steps if you can. And if you can't, just be vigilant, be on your toes, be ready to react in real time in whatever way that you can. If that means having the police on speed dial, or perhaps alerting you, whatever companies may publicly have your stuff on file, having them on speed dial. So hey, I need you to, change it to whatever it is. Just be ready. Be ready, whether it's preparedness in advance or being ready to deal with things in real time for your sake, because no matter how much fun we have on this platform, no matter how much good we do raising millions of dollars for charity, at the end of the day, there's one thing on Twitch that's irreplaceable, and that's you. So remember that, and don't ever blow off your own privacy and safety, because it's
yeah, absolutely there. Love that. I like that you bring up the point that this stuff can affect more than just you, right, on Twitch, especially if it's involving, your address or swatting, whatever. It's important to, like you said, not to get depressed by the fact that all this terrible stuff could happen, but to just think realistically about it. Make sure you have systems there to protect you in case something were to happen. Absolutely agree. All right, so let's get into the viewer Q&A a little bit here. So if you guys have questions for GrindheadJim about trolling, negativity, toxicity on Twitch, or just Twitch in general, now's the time to ask them. I do want to ask a couple questions in the meantime.
Sure.
Although actually we have one from GamerDad already, so let's jump into that for now. He said, how do you handle trolls who you cannot remove via bans? For example, people who clip parts of your stream for the sake of downloading and reviewing with groups to criticize and insult behind your back. So this is what I was talking about earlier in terms of targeted hate groups. And I think most large streamers probably already experience this, and probably some smaller streamers where you have groups who literally just doing nothing but talking about how much they hate someone and nitpicking things. And I mean, you see this, of course, with Ninja, with lots of YouTube videos and things, but this also happens to smaller streamers. So what are your thoughts on this sort of phenomenon?
Short version, ignore it. However, on the same token, take action. Ignore it from an emotional standpoint, because no matter what they have to say about you, they're showing you the level of character they have by doing it where they don't think you can see it. All right. That means they don't have enough gumption to be in your stream and tell you this to your, digital face. They want to do this off stream and just be like, oh, I don't like this guy. First of all, that guy or gal is never going to mate. Okay. Just remember that. And I know that's kind of a harsh thing to say, but at the end of the day, if someone's going to take that kind of time to invest in speaking about you negatively, you just don't give it the attention it deserves by going, hey, I'm not like that. Like, he's vegetarian, he eats cabbage all day. Maybe I do. And maybe my farts are the worst smelling thing in the world, but it's none of your business. If it's a YouTube video, report it. I would DMCA it. Report it as harassment. On Twitter, you do the same thing. If it's a forum like 4chan or something, good luck, but report it.
You can report Discords and things too, and forums sometimes.
Right, exactly. So the point being that if it's in a situation where there's a way to report it as harassment or whatever, do that. Do that and move on. That's the end of it. And if it grows into something else, like the things we were talking about before, you have tools in place to fix that. But it's no different than, when you're in school and there's people that just don't like you and they're going to say things about you behind your back that it really shouldn't affect you. And as Chad is saying here, thank him for the free publicity. Silently, I wouldn't actually say thanks for the publicity, because then you're just giving them a reason to keep doing it. But at the end of the day, like, you can't tell me that sort of thing never results in someone saying, I actually like this guy. I want to go watch him. For every 1,000 people that are like, oh, this guy, one's like, nah, I kind of like him. That's not meant to justify the practice, but whatever. Don't let it affect you as much as you possibly can, and deal with it anonymously and silently. That's my advice.
Yeah. I mean, I think, again, this is also sort of inevitable for everyone on Twitch. Maybe not like targeted hate groups who are sitting in circles and making fun of you, but you're definitely people who want to tear you down, and you're going to have to ignore some of it. You can't get rid of all of it, no matter how good your mod team is, no matter how much you are trying to take care to put those things away or report things or whatever. It's always going to be there. So at some level, you're going to have to be able to mentally deal with it to prepare for that. But right. If you want to, you can report things. You can DMCA things if they're just really violent or vicious. Definitely do that, because you don't want anything severe. But I just think of like the Ligma thing with Ninja recently. That's a really good example of this like widespread trolling thing that everyone was kind of jumping in on. And you can tell he was not a big fan of it, but at the same time, it wasn't like this huge deal he made of, and it's still kind of there. So I think that's a good way to realize that, like, even Ninja, the guy at the top, deals with these kind of things. So it's going to come. And like we said here, just make sure you have systems to prepare for it and do what you can to not let it get under your skin. So hopefully that helps you, Gamer Dad. If you want to talk more specifically, you can always reach out to us too. If you guys have specific instances where you're being really harassed or anything, I want to say this on this episode, please reach out and we can help you more specifically, because I think this could be a topic where you have really sensitive things to share, or you just need advice and you don't know where to go. Please reach out and we can help you out with that and keep it all private. So anyway, Jack the Streaming Snack said, GreenChord, good mods are mentioned. How and when to get them? Your thoughts on that, Jim?
Okay, really simple. The best mods are people that already like your content. Find the people that are there consistently, that seem to be aligned with what your goals are for the stream, and talk to them about whether or not they'd like to mod. Set clear expectations and move forward. Simple. There's no other source of moderation that I would consider.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I personally believe I'm very quick to mod people in terms of like if I think they have potential, and then also quick to remove them. So personally, like if someone wants to have the opportunity and you think they might be decent at it, give them a chance, see how they do. If they don't work out, then move them off mod. That's my thoughts on there, because especially when you're starting, you just need some mods there and you don't have a whole lot of people to pick from. Right. As you grow and continue to scale your audience, you should have some sort of plan on terms of, at this many concurrent viewers, I'll add a moderator, because you're going to have to plan for scaling too. So that's important. And at that point, you can be more selective with who of the community gets to be a moderator, who's better fit for it, that kind of thing.
Exactly.
So, but when you're starting out, just pick people who you think gut feelings should do a good job, and see how they do. That's what I would say.
There you go.
So I had another question from another scenario we had recently here. So I'm not going to give the actual name of the person, but someone kind of experienced what the gamer dad was talking about with a targeted hate group, but it got so severe that he could not get away from it. So he would, remove the people from the community, set up these systems to block people from joining. And these people were so committed that they still went through those things. Like if they had to wait a day to get into the Discord, they did that. If they had to wait 3 days to talk in Twitch, they did it. And still the people came in and were just being hateful and toxic. So I want to get your thoughts on like the proper way to handle that situation. Like what do you do when all your efforts are still not enough to stop the person?
Raise the stakes. I would keep raising the stakes and see what their limit is. Honestly. Because think of it in these terms, and it's very simple. If you've got one to 10 or however many people continuously creating new usernames or whatever to continuously do the same thing, treat them the same way you would a brand new troll. Because you let it get under your skin, you are giving them what they want. So basically, if they're willing to wait 3 days to talk in Twitch, you make it 6 days. If they're willing to wait a day in Discord, make it 3 days. And you keep upping that number until they decide it's not worth it. And you can do this off stream, takes 2 minutes, and you ignore them and you move on, knowing that if they're just coming in being whatever, you just keep raising the stakes until they decide it's enough. You just keep raising that wall up until they don't want to climb anymore. Because any other response that I can think of outside of doing exactly what they are doing to you is something that is giving into their whole thing. Like you can't turn around and swat a troll. You don't want to do that. You can't do that. It's unacceptable. And depending upon what they're threatening or what they're saying or what they're doing, with banning and reporting and all the other things, make a record of everything. If it's something where it's truly targeted, you document everything that you can. Keep an eye on everything that you're able to do. And if something gets truly real life serious, then you have a case. And if you do have to report to law enforcement and things of that nature. But as far as like, if things aren't getting to that level, they're just being really persistent and just being hurtful without it being a quote serious, safety matter. Okay. You would just keep ban report. And again, keep raising that wall until they decide they want to climb. To me, that's what I would do.
Yeah. I think that could be a good opportunity. It's a tough question because even he didn't know what to do at this point.
Right.
But documenting everything and keeping notes of it, that's always going to help you if it's becoming like a consistent problem over time. That way, when you go to, potentially the police or something, or have to report that, you have all the evidence there, can track that down. I think there could be some risk in that fact in terms of like if you're making it a follow for 10 days and then you can talk type of thing. Like, well, yeah, but then I won't get any people who come in and watch my stream who aren't trolls, who just want to watch the content, who can chat. To that, I would say it's probably worth it to get rid of the trolls and toxicity first, and then circle back around to growing the channel, because you don't want people coming into the channel and seeing that right off the bat anyway. So it'd be better to wait, get those people out of your channel, and then once they have been totally purged, then to circle back and then really focus more on bringing people. Yeah.
And you could even set up like an automatic message from your bot that says, if you're new to the stream, we really appreciate your patience. We take these steps for your safety and for your enjoyment. We want to hear from you, and we cannot wait to hear what you have to say after X amount of time, or whatever the case may be, or have a command that does that. If someone like whispers or whatever, be prepared for it. Know that what you're doing can impact the good ones, and make sure that you understand how to approach that so that they can be made aware. You don't want to go into a sob story, be like, "Well, I'm being trolled." You don't want to do that, but let them know why it's being done. It's being done for your and their safety and for their enjoyment. And as long as you approach it and you position it that way, you're gonna be fine. That's the big thing, because at the end of the day, and this is going to sound harsh, but viewers come and go. You can't change you. You have to create the community that you want, and you cannot risk everything for the sake of one or two people, whether they're good or bad. You can't do it. You can't risk everything for the troll, and you can't risk everything for the one viewer that might leave. Because if they like your content enough, they will understand why you're doing it, and they will stay. If they don't like your content enough, they'll leave anyway, even if they could talk. So you've got to put everything in perspective as what's best for the longevity of your channel and your emotional health, and nothing is more important.
Yep, absolutely. Don't do it just because you feel obligated to, please the one viewer who might come in when you're dealing with 10 trolls on the channel, for sure.
Right.
All right, so Apache Entertainment has a question. I love that name.
Sure.
Said, this is slightly off topic, but I started my streaming channel as a virtual reality streamer, but to the weather, it's been too hot to play. Interesting. I've been streaming pancake gaming for almost a month now and growing my channel based on my flat screen gaming. The weather is cooling down now, and I want to transition back to VR. How would you guys handle the transition? Okay, so at the core, this is in terms of changing your audience or changing your brand for your channel, right? When I'm switching so drastically from one game to a different one, or maybe from a game to IRL altogether or something like that, how do you prepare for that? How do you make sure the transition is done well, and how do you evaluate whether it's worth it and what the risks are?
Start hyping it on all your social media, in your Discord, in the chat. Talk about it during what you're doing now, and gauge the interest of people that are watching you now. Figure out what's going to work best for them. Maybe it'll be best to start with a dedicated day and moving back to this other thing, or changing to see in real time, regardless of what the reaction is, of how it's going to work. And if it doesn't work, look at that. Because if you're growing things and it's working with your pancake gaming, which is I really like that. The flapjack. I like that. It's good. I like it. If that's growing, you don't want to alienate people. Because I actually experienced the opposite of this, where I went from, because I was a Destiny guy all the time, got my Vive and started streaming that way. And I had a very complicated rig for that, and I loved it. And I had a whole other group of people who would come in and watch me playing the Vive. And, and I had dedicated days for that. And then I'd come back and do Destiny. So I kind of had almost two separate communities, which is okay to do. But then I eventually, because of some really bad anxiety problems I was having, I wasn't able to do VR, so I couldn't do the streams either. And I just stopped doing it, just kind of cold turkey. And I lost a lot of the guys, if not all of the people that had came because of the VR streaming. And that's part and parcel. You have to understand and accept that every piece of content that you stream is not for everyone in your community. Be aware of that, be prepared for it, and deal with it accordingly. So if you're looking to go full 180, prep the community for it. Get their idea of what's going on. If you have enough of a pocket of people that are really passionate about the pancake stuff you're doing and then the vibe you put off, you probably would do well to create a corner of your community for that, or make it the other way around, where whether you're the happiest or not doing the pancake stuff, if that's your bread and butter, or your margarine and pancakes, if you will, you need to allow that to breathe and still do the VR stuff, so you're pleasing everybody. But at the end of the day, only you and your community can answer the structure, to the structure of what that's going to take. But you have to involve them on some level, but ultimately make the decision that's best for you and what makes you happy.
Yeah, I could go all day on this topic. I think it's a great one in terms of, planning for everything involved in switching your content. But I totally agree with that. You probably, I think for most people when they're switching content, regardless, no matter how well you prepare for it, you're going to see some sort of dip in your audience. If you've been streaming something else for a while now and you've built an audience around that, and now you're switching to a different audience, even if you did it in the past, you're probably going to see an initial dip. So like we talked about on here before, mentally preparing for that and just realizing that that's okay. It doesn't mean your stream is dying. It just means it's part of the process. And ultimately, you're probably going to be happier by switching to a category that you feel better about, that you are more passionate about, and that you see yourself doing long term. So just making sure that you can prepare for that and keep like a long term focus is really important. Not to be so hung up on the numbers on day 1 or day 3, thinking long term. For sure.
And that goes for each stream too. Like I've been experiencing something where since I moved to Texas, my schedule is such that between now having a family and working a big chunk of the middle of the day, streaming is finding time to do it that's going to work is extremely difficult. So what I've been doing is I've been pretty much, and I hate to say it, a weekly streamer with some random smatterings throughout. And it looks like there's some changes coming to my work schedule that may allot for some more regularity than I can schedule out. But my point being that when I would start up a stream, no matter how much I seemed to hype it up, and no matter how consistent I was able to get it done, it was difficult to get people to come in. And there was one time that I was on a whim without saying anything, fired up the stream at a time I never stream at. And the first half hour, there was nobody in chat, nothing. And it was, I was like, man, why am I even doing this? And in my head, I was going, you should have prepped people. You should have said something. There's a lot of stuff that you should have, would have, could have, houlda. But I was like, you know what? I'm doing this because I'm playing something in the game that I need to get done. I had a goal in Destiny at that moment because they had just started like the end of the year stuff. Well, I have to do that anyway. So talk your way through it, have some fun, regard it as practice. And about 10 minutes after I psyched myself out in my head, people started showing up. And it was one of the best chats I'd had in a very long time. Some new subs, some resubs, some gifted subs. Bits were flying all over the place. It was awesome. So be patient with yourself when you're making any change or doing something unexpected with your channel. Roll with it and know that you will get to a place that's fine. It may take longer than you want it to, whether it's during that one stream or over the course of many weeks or what have you. Understand that if you're doing something that you really want to do or need to do, because for me, like when I have a goal in a game of something I need to finish in a set amount of time, streaming helps keep me accountable to getting that finished. And it's another show. When you do those kind of things, learn what motivates you, stick to that. Everything else will come with it. Motivate yourself, the rest will come.
Right. Yeah. That's why I think, switching to a directory that you feel more motivated in is so powerful to,
yes.
You might see that dip initially, but the potential gain long-term just vastly outweighs that. So
absolutely.
Cool. So thank you for that question, Apache. And I hope that helps you. Jack, the streaming snack, has the last question of the day. And his question is a cool one because it's flipping the entire conversation on its head here. So, I know that we were talking a bit about dealing with negativity. How do we push positivity pre-stream, during stream, and post-stream to kind of fight the negativity? So what are your thoughts on that? Just creating a positive stream before, during, and after a stream, briefly.
Well, to be honest with you, it's really easy. You just be that way. The easiest way to create positivity is to tell people because the whole thing about trolling, the reason you don't engage in it, you don't want to focus more energy on what your stream isn't about than you do what a stream is about. So really positivity is all about saying, here's what we do. Here's what we're about. Here's what we laugh about. Here's what, this is what makes us happy. So you talk about that, you have a lot of streamers that'll sit there and they're almost on a timer in their head and they'll just kind of say, hey guys, I'm GrindheadJim. We want to thank you for being here on our Destiny stream. I'm doing this today because of this. And, we love really dirty jokes about this and you bring your best dad jokes and this and that and blah, 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 blah. And you say that. You just tell people what the expectation is. You tell them what's going to make them more entertained. You say this on social media, after the stream, you tweet out, hey guys, thanks for a great stream. Here's who we hosted or rated, thank you so much, whatever. And you, in my opinion, should do that after every stream, but I'm guilty of not doing that. But just, take the time. If you're walking around in the middle of the day and you think of your community and how happy they made you on XYZ day or whatever, tell them. Just tell them, when you're not on stream and you've got some downtime, hop in the Discord, say good morning or good afternoon or whatever. Just be positive. You don't have to necessarily make that an automation or something like that. You don't have to have a business plan around that. Just embody the things you want your community to be as often as you can, as naturally as you can, and it will follow.
Absolutely agree with that. Yeah. And we actually did a discussion with Jim Watts, who's another sponsored streamer on positivity.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm actually going to link that in the chat right now. And if you're listening to the show, I'll put it in the show notes. If you want to check out more on how to put positivity in your channel and make it real and authentic and not just like a facade you put on all the time, definitely check that out because that was a great episode as well. But I love this topic because, there's no better way really to fight negativity than to turn it around with positivity, which I think you see some streamers do that really well. When, trolls come in there, they respond to the trolls with positivity and happiness, and it just totally shuts the troll down because they're getting the opposite effect of what they want, right? Rather than you being annoyed or visibly upset by what the troll is saying, you're using it as a fire to keep the stream entertaining and keep it going. That, if you can get that skill down, I think is just invaluable. And people who watch those streams, like I go into streams to see people who can do this, it's so funny to watch because you just totally turn that troll around and you're using it to bolster your stream rather than to turn down your stream. So
exactly.
Definitely check that podcast out if you want. And I love the question, Jack. Thank you for that. But that is going to be the show for today, guys. So thank you guys for coming out and watching StreamKey. Again, we're live every Thursday and Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern. So tomorrow I'll be here with Phone In Friday. I don't know who's going to be on yet, actually. But we'll have somebody. And Jim, thank you again so much for coming on here. Anything you want to say in terms of where people can find you? Any last notes or anything?
First of all, thanks for having me on the show. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. We don't get to talk enough, my friend. I had a lot of fun. Thank you guys for some amazing questions. You can find me over at GrindheadJim.com. And if you want to find a specific thing, you just do GrindheadJim.com/whatever you're looking for. So GrindheadJim.com/Twitch/Twitter/Instagram/whatever. // I don't know. I'm sure it's there. So if you want to find me, that's how you find me. I'm in the TRUgaming Discord, bebopping around at me because I'm a busy dude and I'll miss it if you don't. So I thank you very much for the opportunity to be part of the community. Thank you for being one of the pillars of the community. I've had so much fun. I don't have an ending for this, so I'll just shut up.
You're totally fine. And thank you so much. Awesome to have you in the community, and I can't wait to have you back on for more. Plus, guys, go check out True Talk if you haven't already. Jim and Gamer Dad do a fantastic job with that podcast. So if you need more podcasts in your life, just search for True Talk or Twitch on the podcast platform of your choice, and you'll find it.
Live recordings Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
That's right. It comes out every Friday, so you can catch it anywhere you want. Yes. All right, so that is it, guys. We're going to drop a love bomb on, I think we're going to do Dream Trip today since he's streaming, and he's been pushing hard for partner. He's very close, so we'll give him a little boost of love today. And we'll see you guys tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern for Phone In Friday with Veli and some other people. Until then, I hope you guys have a great day, and we will see you later. So, adios.
See ya.